It started in the streets, on corners, in basements, on borrowed mics with broken beats. A voice for the unheard, a rhythm for the restless. It's global, louder than ever, streaming across continents, chart-topping, genre-bending, culture-defining. These are the new voices, the digital poets of a generation raised on hustle, hashtags, and heartbreak. They're not waiting for a seat at the table. They're building their own. This is more than music. This is a movement. This is hip-hop. Drake, an artist who turned introspection into anthems, heartbreak into chart toppers, and a hometown into a worldwide movement. This is the story of Aubrey Drake Graham. Aubrey Drake Graham, known globally as Drake, was born on October 24, 1986, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. His upbringing was a blend of contrasting worlds that deeply influenced his identity and musical trajectory. His father, Dennis Graham, was an African-American drummer who played with the legendary Jerry Lee Lewis, while his mother, Sandy Graham, is a white Jewish Canadian who worked as an educator. This biracial and interfaith background exposed Drake to a diverse cultural landscape early on, shaping both his worldview and artistic sensibilities. Drake's early years were marked by a blend of middle-class comfort and later financial and emotional challenges. After his parents divorced when he was 5, Drake lived primarily with his mother in the Forest Hill neighborhood of Toronto. Though Forest Hill was an affluent area, Drake and his mother struggled financially, residing in the lower half of a duplex. His mother, who battled health issues, raised him largely on her own, instilling in him a sense of responsibility and resilience from a young age. Drake's love for music began early, heavily influenced by his father's musical background and the hip-hop culture that was emerging in the 1990s. Even as a child, he was exposed to a variety of genres, from R&B and soul to rap and pop. His father would often play classic Southern music and jazz during visits, which gave Drake a taste for rhythm and lyrical storytelling. Meanwhile, his Jewish heritage brought him into contact with different cultural customs and sounds, deepening his appreciation for identity and introspection, themes that would later become central in his music. In his early teens, Drake enrolled at Forest Hill Collegiate Institute, where he discovered an interest in acting. This led to his breakout role as Jimmy Brooks on the Canadian teen drama series Degrassi. While acting provided him with financial stability and public visibility, music remained his true passion. Even during his time on Degrassi, Drake was quietly writing lyrics and recording songs in his home studio. He was deeply inspired by artists like Jay-Z, Kanye West, and Lil Wayne, figures who blended lyrical skill with emotional authenticity. Drake's first mixtape, Room for Improvement, released in 2006, marked the beginning of his formal music career. He followed up with Comeback Season and So Far Gone, the latter of which gained widespread acclaim and captured the attention of Lil Wayne, who signed him to Young Money Entertainment. This period cemented Drake's transition from actor to serious musician. His ability to merge melodic hooks with introspective lyrics set him apart in the hip-hop world.
Standing to my right is the hardest Martin Luther King died for. Make some noise for Drizzy Drake, please.
Released in 2009, Forever was more than just a song. It was a declaration, a collaboration between Drake, Kanye West, Lil Wayne, and Eminem. It wasn't just a flex, it was a coronation. The beat thundered like an anthem, giving each artist space to bring their signature style. For Drake, this was his trial by fire.
Last name never, first name greatest. Like a sprained ankle, boy, I ain't nothing to play with. I started off local, thanks to all the haters. I'm a G4 pilots on a first name basis.
He didn't just survive the lineup, he earned his spot. Forever became an anthem of ambition. It marked the moment when Drake stepped onto the world stage. Later that same year, Drake returned, not as a soloist, but as part of a movement. Young Money Entertainment, led by Lil Wayne, was assembling a new generation of stars. Their breakout single, Bedrock, which featured big stars like Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne. It is a lighthearted, flirtatious track filled with punchlines and pop appeal, and showcased the chemistry and charisma of the Young Money roster. Bedrock wasn't made for the critics. It was made for the fans. For the cars, the clubs, and the kids who felt like Young Money belonged to them. Drake's debut studio album, Thank Me Later, arrived in June 2010 amidst massive anticipation. Following the success of his breakthrough 2009 mixtape So Far Gone, Thank Me Later showcased a young artist grappling with newfound fame. With production from Noah, 40 Shabib, Kanye West, and Timbaland, the album merged ambient soundscapes with punchy rap and R&B melodies. Lyrically, Drake examined themes of self-doubt, fame, and relationships as seen in tracks like Fireworks featuring Alicia Keys. While not as cohesive as his later work, the album was praised for its emotional transparency. While Thank Me Later itself didn't win a Grammy, it did receive multiple nominations.
And this year to be nominated 4 times off a debut album, it's incredible. My mom is my date again, and she had a very dramatic, very nerve-wracking surgery early this year. We didn't know how she was going to do with that. So for her to recover and be able to come here with me on Sunday is going to be incredible. So.
Commercially, it debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, signaling Drake's successful transition from mixtape star to mainstream heavyweight.
What am I doing? Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm doing me.
Widely considered Drake's magnum opus, Take Care cemented his reputation as an introspective and emotionally intelligent artist. Released in November 2011, the album refined the moody, atmospheric sound introduced in his earlier work, thanks largely to 40's minimalist production style and the influence of The Weeknd, who contributed both vocals and songwriting. Songs like Marvin's Room and Doing It Wrong explored heartbreak and vulnerability in a way rarely seen in hip-hop at the time. The title track, featuring Rihanna, blended sensuality with regret, while Lord Knows and Underground Kings reminded listeners of his lyrical prowess. Winning the Grammy for Best Rap Album, Take Care became a cultural touchstone and influenced a generation of artists to embrace emotional openness in their music. If Take Care was Drake's emotional outpouring, Nothing Was the Same was his artistic statement of control. Released in September 2013, the album was tighter, more confident, and less reliant on features. It marked a maturation in both production and lyricism, with standout singles like Started From the Bottom, which served as both a defiant anthem and a viral catchphrase. The album's duality was also represented in its cover art and musical tone. The production was polished yet experimental, pushing the boundaries of hip-hop while maintaining commercial appeal. Many fans and critics praised it as Drake's most focused work, surprising fans with a sudden digital release in February 2015. If you're reading this, It's Too Late blurred the lines between mixtape and album. Its darker, more aggressive tone marked a shift in Drake's persona. Gone was the tender, conflicted lover. In his place was a confident, even menacing rapper ready to dominate. Tracks like Energy and Six God were confrontational, aimed at critics and rivals alike. The minimalist beats, largely produced by 40 and Boy Wonder, complemented Drake's staccato delivery and layered wordplay. This project also signaled a turning point in Drake's relationship with the rap world, making it clear he could thrive without traditional radio hits. Despite its mixtape label, it debuted at #1 and eventually went double platinum. Later that same year, Drake collaborated with Atlanta rapper Future on What a Time to Be Alive. The surprise joint mixtape leaned heavily into trap production by Metro Boomin and Southside, offering a raw, club-focused sound. While not as introspective as his solo projects, the tape showcased Drake's adaptability and range. Tracks like Jumpman and Big Rings became anthems, and the chemistry between Drake and Future demonstrated their dominance in two different lanes of hip-hop: Drake's emotional, melodic style and Future's gritty street narratives. Though more of a side project, it further solidified Drake's status as a consistent hitmaker. Drake's real battle test in hip-hop has played out over multiple phases in his career, but the most notable and widely acknowledged instance was his 2015 feud with Meek Mill. That moment stands as the clearest trial by fire in the tradition of rap beefs, where lyrical skill, composure, and public perception are all on the line. The feud started unexpectedly in July 2015, when Meek Mill took to Twitter to accuse Drake of using a ghostwriter for his verse on Rico, a track from Meek's album Dreams Worth More Than Money. Specifically, Meek claimed that Drake didn't write his own lyrics and used a ghostwriter named Quentin Miller. In hip-hop, authenticity and lyrical authorship are highly valued, so the accusation was significant. Meek's tweets shocked fans and industry peers, especially because there was no prior public tension between the two. Drake responded swiftly and strategically. Just a few days after Meek's accusations, he released a calm but pointed diss track titled Charged Up on July 25, 2015. The song was low-key and sarcastic, serving more as a warning shot than a direct attack. Then, only a few days later, Drake dropped Back to Back, a more aggressive and scathing diss track that became an instant classic. In it, Drake mocked Meek for being a touring opening act for his then-girlfriend, Nicki Minaj, and questioned his credibility. After 3 years of tension, the beef was publicly squashed in 2018. Drake and Meek reunited on stage at a concert in Boston during Drake's Aubrey and the Three Migos tour. The moment was highly symbolic, with both artists embracing and performing Dreams and Nightmares, Meek's most iconic song. Later that year, Meek released his Championships album, which included a collaboration with Drake titled Going Bad. The track was seen as a full-circle moment and showed both artists moving past their feud. Released in April 2016, Views was Drake's most ambitious project to date. Originally titled Views from the Six, the album paid homage to his Toronto roots while attempting to blend Afro-Caribbean, dancehall, and traditional hip-hop influences. While critics were divided on its length, 20 tracks, and pacing, the album was commercially massive. Hits like Hotline Bling, One Dance and Controller dominated the airwaves, with One Dance becoming the most streamed song of 2016. The album's structure was designed to reflect Toronto's seasons, beginning with cold introspection with tracks like Keep the Family Close, and it gradually warming up with tracks like Too Good, featuring Rihanna, before returning to Solitude.
What makes a hit different from a classic? I think a hit record is anything that catches at the moment. Given the climate, I mean, like now it's like the literal climate, like it's summertime, I mean, records can sound great in the summer and then it gets a little colder out and you got to go back to school or back to work. That same record doesn't appeal to you. I think a great timeless record or a classic just transcends all seasons, all years. If you don't start the record off by being like, it's 2010, don't ever do that. Don't ever call, just make it as timeless as you can. I think, like I said, if it's genuine emotion, and it's got a great canvas, a great beat, I think it'll last. So I hope mine lasts.
Despite mixed critical reception, Views spent 13 non-consecutive weeks at #1 and became a global phenomenon. It revealed Drake's global ambitions and his ability to adapt regional sounds into mainstream pop. Labeled a playlist rather than a traditional album, More Life released in March 2017 as a genre-blending mosaic. Drake used the project to spotlight a wide range of international sounds, including grime, Afrobeat, and Caribbean influences. It also featured several guest artists, such as Giggs, Skepta, and Jorja Smith, showcasing his appreciation for UK and African music scenes. Songs like Passion Fruit, Madiba Rhythm, and Blim showed Drake's comfort with singing, while Do Not Disturb served as a reflective closer. Although the lack of a central narrative or structure led to some criticism, More Life demonstrated Drake's versatility and served as a bridge between cultures. It also broke streaming records upon release, proving the effectiveness of his unconventional playlist format. Scorpion, released in June 2018, was Drake's double album response to a turbulent year marked by feuds, personal revelations, and tabloid drama. Divided into a rap side and an R&B side, the album addressed everything from fatherhood to betrayal. Drake acknowledged his son publicly for the first time on his 2018 album Scorpion, particularly in the track March 14th. Musically, Scorpion was sprawling but packed with hits. The viral juggernaut, In My Feelings, became a cultural moment thanks to the hashtag #InMyFeelingsChallenge, while God's Plan topped charts and won a Grammy. Nice for What flipped a Lauryn Hill sample into a feminist anthem, demonstrating Drake's ability to merge pop accessibility with cultural resonance. Though some critics felt the album was overlong, Scorpion was undeniably impactful. It broke multiple streaming records and made Drake the first artist to occupy 7 spots in the Billboard Hot 100's top 10 simultaneously. Released on August 2, 2019, Care Package is a compilation album that features songs Drake had previously released on various platforms but were not available for purchase or streaming. The compilation includes tracks from 2010 to 2016, offering fans a curated collection of his work during that period. The album serves as a nostalgic look back at Drake's earlier work and was well received by fans. On May 1, 2020, Drake released Dark Lane demo tapes, a mixtape that features a collection of tracks that had leaked online along with new material. The mixtape includes collaborations with artists like Future, Playboi Carti, and Fivio Foreign. Musically, it delves into darker, more atmospheric sounds, with themes of introspection, paranoia, and the complexities of fame. The mixtape received mixed reviews, with some critics praising its experimental approach, while others felt it lacked cohesion. In the fall of 2021, the world's biggest rapper reminded everyone why he held the crown. After years of anticipation, delays, cryptic billboards, and one of the most passive-aggressive rollouts in music history, Drake finally delivered. Certified Lover Boy wasn't just an album, it was a moment. Teased since 2019, interrupted by injury and overshadowed by beef with Kanye West, Drake kept the world guessing. And when September 3, 2021 arrived, he dropped more than music. He dropped dominance. At 21 tracks and 86 minutes long, the CLB was sprawling and unashamedly Drake. It was luxury. It was late night. It was toxic. It was tender. And above all, it was chart-shattering. Drake didn't reinvent himself. He refined himself. Champagne Poetry opened the album like a gospel sermon. Way Too Sexy flipped a Right Said Fred sample into meme gold. And Knife Talk? That was pure menace. But between the bars were emotional confessions, petty subtweets, and low-key heartbreaks. This was an artist deeply aware of his myth and the price of wearing the crown. Drake was to be battle-tested again. In May 2018, Pusha T released his album Daytona, executive produced by Kanye West. The closing track, Infrared, reignited the feud by taking aim at Drake's alleged use of ghostwriters. This referenced the long-standing accusation that Drake used reference tracks from songwriter Quentin Miller, which had first surfaced during Drake's 2015 beef with Meek Mill. Drake responded just a day later with Duppy Freestyle, a pointed diss where he went after Pusha and Kanye. Pusha T followed with a brutal and personal diss track titled The Story of Adidon, over the instrumental of Jay-Z's The Story of OJ. It wasn't just a lyrical diss. It was a full expose. Pusha exposes Drake's son and questioned Drake's character, attacking his absentee father and his biracial identity. Drake did not release a response track, which surprised many fans. This strategic silence was criticized by some, while others saw it as maturity. In interviews, Drake admitted he recorded a response but felt it crossed a line.
And when I was making the record in response, which was a real record, I know people think it's like some myth, it was like on this vinyl's beat, and I just found myself saying things that, like, one, seemed really out of character just because I was like deeply invested in the situation and getting very angry, and saying things that I don't know if in 2 years I'd want to hear myself say.
The Drake versus Pusha T feud is a landmark moment in modern hip-hop. It combined lyrical warfare with personal stakes, reshaping the narrative around both artists. But Drake would be battle-tested once again, and it'll be simmering tension between Drake and Kendrick Lamar exploded into one of hip-hop's most unforgettable feuds. What began over a decade earlier with subtle jabs and competitive tension turned nuclear after Kendrick's fiery verse on Like That, where he dismissed Drake and J. Cole's status in rap's Big Three. Drake quickly fired back with push-ups and the AI-infused tailor-made freestyle, escalating the war of words. Kendrick responded with laser-focused precision in Euphoria and 616 in L.A., setting the tone for a lyrical onslaught that hit its peak with Not Like Us, a brutal, chart-topping diss that mocked Drake's image and integrity. By May, the battle was less about bars and more about public perception, and Kendrick had it in a chokehold. Drake's final track, The Heart Part 6, signaled a retreat, acknowledging the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a rap battle, it was a cultural shift. Kendrick walked away with the win, while Drake recalibrated, focusing on longevity over lyrical dominance. Two titans, one clear victor, and a moment etched in hip-hop history. On June 17, 2022, Drake released Honestly Nevermind, a surprise dance album that marked a departure from his usual hip-hop and R&B sound. The album features house and Baltimore club influences, with tracks like Massive, Sticky, and Jimmy Cooks. Her Loss, released on November 4, 2022, is a collaborative album with 21 Savage. Musically, it blends elements of hip-hop and trap with themes of relationships, fame, and introspection. For All the Dogs is Drake's 8th studio album. Musically, it blends elements of hip-hop, R&B, and pop with themes of love, fame, and relationships. For All the Dogs debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and received generally positive reviews from critics. Some Sexy Songs for You, released on February 14, 2025, is a collaborative album with Party Next Door. The album features 21 tracks and explores themes of love, lust, and emotional vulnerability. Drake's influence on hip-hop is undeniable. Blending rap, R&B, and pop with emotional vulnerability, he redefined masculinity in mainstream music. His versatility blurred genre lines and expanded hip-hop's soundscape. Even amid rivalries and criticism, his cultural imprint remains vast, commercially unmatched, stylistically influential, and globally resonant. Drake didn't just ride trends, he created them, leaving a legacy that continues to echo throughout modern hip-hop.